Hello, my name is Mr. Fowler. In this video, I'm going to introduce myself, tell you a little bit about myself. I'm going to tell you about some expectations in the classroom, the class rules, things like that. So let's get started. You want to check and make sure that your schedule is correct, that it's current. Make sure that you're in the right class. Whenever I sent out the Google Classroom invitations, it was early, so I know some people have moved in and out of my class, so just make sure that you're good to go there. So just take a quick glance at your schedule and make sure that you're supposed to be in Mr. Fowler's Algebra 1 or Algebra 2 class. All right, guys, I do have hobbies outside school. A lot of times people have this misconception that math teachers, that all we think about and all we do is math. I don't do math when I get home. I don't sit around and do math problems for fun. I actually like to be active and do things. I like to do CrossFit, if any of you know what that is. If not, you can look it up on the internet. I do CrossFit at CrossFit 1108 here in Dalton. I'm also a level 1 coach. So I actually teach and coach some classes at the gym where I work out. I was in the Marine Corps. I served in the Marine Corps active duty for 4 years, and then I was in the reserves for about a year and a half. My job was the infantry. So a lot of you are wondering what the infantry is. If you play Call of Duty or something like that, that's what I did. I was the one rappelling out of helicopters. I was kicking in doors, throwing grenades. That was my job. The Marine Corps allowed me to go to a lot of different places around the world. I've been to Russia. I've been to the Philippines. I've been to Okinawa, Japan. I've been to mainland Japan. I've been to Korea. All right, so if you like to travel and you don't have the money to do it, a military is a good way to fund your travels around the world. I worked in law enforcement for approximately 3.5 years. I worked for the Dalton Police Department for 3 years, and then I worked for the Whitfield County Sheriff's Department for about 6 months before I got my first teaching job. I do have a family. I have a beautiful wife that I've been married to for over 19 years. She's actually a photographer here in town. My oldest son is Logan. He goes here to Cola Creek. Some of you may know him. My daughter, middle daughter, that's Annabelle. She goes to North Whitfield Middle School. And then my youngest one is Lainey. All right, so this is my family. So once again, they keep me busy going to football practice and cheerleading practice and gymnastics and all those different things. All right, but I do have a family that I love very much, and they are my priority and my time. Will there be assigned seats? Yes. If you're here in the classroom, there have to be assigned seats. The reason for that is the school has to do it so that they can do tracing for the COVID-19. If someone in a classroom gets sick with COVID-19, they need to know exactly where they were sitting every time and who was sitting around them. That way we know who to send home, quarantine, or whatever it may be. Cohort 1, which is Mondays, and then Cohort 2, which is Tuesdays. Your schedule, first period will go from 8:20 to 9:55. Third period will go from 10 to 11:35. Fifth period and lunch will go from 11:40 to 1:40. And then seventh period will go from 1:45 to 3:20. Okay, so that's Cohort 1 and Cohort 2, Monday and Tuesday. All right, you should know what cohort you're in by this point. If not, we can check your schedule. Wednesday, Thursday, Cohort 1 will come on Wednesday. Cohort 2 will come on Thursday. These are going to be your even number classes. Second period is 8:20 to 9:55. Advisement, which will go from 10 to 11:35. Fourth period and lunch will go 11:40 to 1:40. And then sixth period will be from 1:45 to 3:20. All right, communication with me. You can always email me. That email address is jared.fowler@wcsga.net. I also have a website, and this is more for your parents than for you. There's some good information on there for you as well. but this is where your parents will get all their information because they can't be on Google Classroom. They can only access my website. I will use Remind. You can see the Remind codes there. Algebra 1 classes are in the white box. Algebra 2 classes are in the green box. And then the virtual students, you're down there at the bottom in the blue box. Make sure that you identify which class and period you're in and sign up with the correct code. All right, so once again, make sure you sign up for Remind because I'll send out announcements through Remind. Plus, we can shoot messages to each other. I can text you a quick message or you can text me a quick message. Now, guys, with Remind, after about 7 o'clock at night, I will not respond to any Remind messages. All right, I'm at home with my family. Unless it's like an absolute dire emergency or something like that, I will not respond to any kind of Remind messages after 7 o'clock at night. Okay, guys, some apps that you may need to download for your mobile device. All right, Google Classroom, that's kind of a given. We're going to be doing pretty much everything on Google Classroom this year. And then, of course, Google Drive. You have a Google Drive account. It's associated with your school email address. There's a video on the Google Classroom showing you how to take a picture of a worksheet, turn it into a PDF, and then upload it to Google Drive, and then submit it into Google Classroom. So you will need Google Classroom and Google Drive at the least. All right, so those are some mobile devices that you'll need to download if you haven't already. All right, grades. Daily work / homework is 50% of your grade. Daily work can consist of videos on Edpuzzle with some practice problems. You'll see those when you get into Google Classroom. There'll be worksheets posted on Google Classroom. And then assessments are the other 50%. All right, assessments could be quizzes, tests, whatever it may be. All right, but that's pretty much the way your grades are going to work. Classroom rules. This is for the students who are actually here in class. Be in the room before the tardy bell rings. Bring a note from a teacher if you're kept over. Just to kind of let me know. If you come in without a note and you're tardy, I'm just going to mark you tardy. No questions asked. All right, I'm not going to just take your word for it. If you're in the bathroom, that's not an excuse. The only excuse that you have for being tardy is if a teacher kept you over and they should give you a note. If not, you're tardy, plain and simple. Prepare for class the instant you arrive. In other words, get out your paper and notebooks and pencils and things like that. Make sure you maintain social distancing. I know it's going to be hard, guys. We're used to getting up and talking to our friends and things like that, but we can't do that. The desks are spread out for a reason. I think that if you wanted to talk to someone, you could sit in your desk and communicate with them pretty well. Show respect for your teacher, fellow students in the classroom. Guys, that's plain and simple. If I'm talking to the class, you're not talking. If someone else is talking, asking me a question, you're not talking. Be respectful to the classroom. Don't be damaging anything. I don't come into your house and mess up your house. Please don't come into my classroom and mess up my classroom. Food and drinks are okay as long as you pick up after yourself. Okay, I don't mind if you bring food and drinks in here, especially early in the morning. Some of you coming in, bringing your breakfast, perfectly fine with that. Just make sure you pick up after yourself. If I have to start cleaning up food trays and drink bottles and things like that, I'll stop all food and drinks allowed in my classroom. Hall passes will not be issued during the lecture, only during student work time. Now, there's not going to be much lecture time in class. I'm using a flipped classroom model. What that means is a lot of the times you're going to be watching my lectures or videos at home. Whenever you come into the classroom, that'll be mainly practice time. We may do a couple of projects depending on how this whole COVID-19 thing goes. Cell phones. Now this one's kind of tricky. No cell phones in class, no AirPods, no headphones or anything like that. No other electronic devices like iPads, smartwatches, or anything like that. Now, the intent of this is that you're not, Snapchatting or you're on Instagram or anything like that. We can use our cell phones to do things like work here in class or maybe submit assignments. That's the kind of stuff I don't mind. But if you're using it to do things that are not educational, that's when it becomes a problem. So when I say no cell phones in class, I meant for uh, personal use. Once again, no Instagram, no Snapchat, or anything like that. What you need to be using your cell phone for is if you're actually doing schoolwork, submitting assignments, doing work. All right, guys, so let's talk about the reality of the situation. We've never had a school year like this before, so things are most likely going to change. I don't even know how long we'll actually be in school. We may make it the whole year, we may make it a week, we may make it a month. I don't know. The big thing here is that you have to be flexible this year and with this class. You got to be able to transition between digital learning and learning here in the actual classroom. You got to be flexible and understand that some things about this class may change depending on what the school advises or the needs of the students. Like I mentioned before, we will be using a flipped classroom. If you want to see what a flipped classroom is, you can go to my website, and on the home page, about halfway through, there's a video talking about what a flipped classroom is. So you can kind of familiarize yourself with that. Communication with you and your parents is going to be very important. I'll be contacting you using Remind, email. We can message each other through Google Classroom. Your parents can contact me through my classroom sites. But the big thing is communication. Virtual students, I will do my best each week to try to have a live session on Thursday or Friday or something like that so that you can kind of see me face to face and ask me questions. Of course, you can always email me or send me messages on Remind. It is going to be a challenging year, but just make sure that you're doing your work at home. For the students that are here in class, you're only here for 90 minutes. All right, so that's not much time with a teacher, so make sure you use the most of it. For the virtual students, and then whenever the ones who are actually doing virtual learning at home, even though they're on the hybrid schedule, the big thing is just make sure that you're doing the work at home. Make sure you're asking questions. This isn't an ideal situation, guys, but we'll make it through it as long as we do what we're supposed to be doing. All right, guys, so that's just a little bit about me and my classroom. If you have any questions, you can email me. You can shoot me a message on Remind or whatever. But thank you for being a part of this class this year, and I'm excited to see all of you or communicate with y'all. And good luck this year.